Cynthia from Lincoln.
Kathy from Forest Hill.
And Jason again from Auburn.
Yay!
Thank you.
Oh,
So, we have a few issues, and I'm going to start off with the issue of school. So, there's been an epidemic of students in schools using ChatGPT to do their homework for them, including writing essays. Because each of these productions is unique, plagiarism checkers like Turnitin.com can't detect them because there's no other version of it somewhere else. So many of these students are turning in AI work, and well, that's a really good way to have some time to hang out with friends, play video games. 2 minutes, ChatGPT, homework is done. How do we feel about this? Is ChatGPT and AI a threat to education in America? And what should be done about it? I'll give you the floor.
Okay, well, education, I have strong feelings about that, and I think it starts way before, high school, and that's where, well, actually, no, because I taught 5th grade, and they were already trying to figure out ways to make the writing process easier. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in kind of taking technology out of the classroom, I would say 99% of the time. I think it's okay to have maybe 2 periods a week to learn how to do research, typing, whatever you need to do on the computer. There are really good educational programs for reinforcement and learning and all that. But I think there's nothing wrong with going back to learning cursive. There are studies that tell you definitively that all of our scores have gone down, and there is a direct correlation between the movement of actually writing with a pen and pencil and long-term memory. That's why children are cheating in college, because they don't have long-term memory like they used to, because they're not writing, they're typing their notes. Or they're cheating, and all of those issues are, I think, relevant. But I think, I think you need to model good behavior, because I think the numbers, it's way over 50% of the content on the internet is all manufactured. Manufactured. And I've talked to a number of people that have blogs, and they told me how easy it was because they're not actually writing them. And I was amazed to learn that. So I think that it again comes down to the home, and maybe parents supervising their children. And sorry, high schoolers, maybe instead of working on your paper in the room, you need to come back out to the kitchen table. We'll shut the TV off so it's quiet. But you need to you need to turn in. I always required a rough draft. That's my prescription. I want a rough draft. We go through that rough draft, and I'll probably grade the rough draft before I look at the final project that was typed out. So that's what I would do to eliminate ChatGPT from, and college too. Everything needs to be handwritten, and you know what? Maybe they'll realize, even if they're copying a ChatGPT paper and handwriting it, maybe that influence alone will help spur the writing process.
They'll actually have to know what they wrote.
Right. I mean, you're never going to be able to solve all the problems, but I think you could start there. And I guess, you got to give them time. I always gave them time in class. A lot of the teachers assign it as homework. Have them do it in class. That can eliminate the problem too.
Yeah.
And
It's always a kind of mouse game.
Not much to say about it. You have a lot to say
Well,
about
you
it.
brought up about education, and I'm they need to do it in class. So
For
they
the,
can
for the new guy who just walked in, we're talking about AI.
Okay, what do you want to know?
Oh.
IT for 30 years and 3rd generation technology.
Ah.
Would you like to join?
You can be part of the panel.
You serious?
Yes.
Yeah.
Serious.
Yes.
Hey, I got, all right.
All right.
I
You
got
can
some
be,
delicious steaks I just got.
So, could you tell us your name and where you're from?
I'm Mike Green. I'm from Auburn.
Oh,
Moved
okay.
here in '88. Went to Placer. I was homeschooled
Oh.
up till high school and said, okay, I gotta figure this thing out. I jumped in. Didn't know if I was gonna go with law or technology. Technology was just a thing in the 80s, so I was kind of there. But I stuck with it and worked out well. AI is just a giant search engine. It's just gonna be the vehicle for why we're gonna need better power sources. But your answer for stimulating the kids' education, sorry.
Cynthia.
Cynthia.
Hi,
So
nice to meet you.
your answer, which is low tech, which is force them to write, is the solution. So if you want them to actually develop clear thoughts and ability to think cleanly, you need to put the paper to pen and enunciate in your writing, in your words, what you're doing. Chat has a whole bunch of buzzwords, there's a bunch of money behind it in tech. It's going to be the new end all be all, just like every other thing before it. It's okay. It's very clunky. It works for fixing if you're coding something that's really easy, so I don't have to outsource it to another place that was cheaper. I could just throw it in AI, it'll spit out a bunch of code or text that I need, and then I can take it, and then since I know the principles that's been taught, I can fix it and make it work. It's kind of
So you're saying you use it for what?
for repeatable, simple work. So the stuff that's being outsourced right now, the stuff
Okay,
that's being
so-
done and doesn't require a lot of specialty or expert,
Yeah.
work. People have used it to write law dissertations or steal political leaders' voice, and so they're doing fake
Right.
ads with it and stuff.
They just recently did that with Gavin Newsom. They created an ad of him
Yeah.
endorsing Kamala Harris, but the ad was saying all negative things like I increased homelessness and crime and stuff.
Yeah.
It was done as a satire to
Yeah.
make fun of him because he just signed an anti-AI law. So it was in response to that they made an AI of him.
There was a coach
Oh.
a couple years ago that was, it sounded like he had fired somebody, and it sounded like, according to the recording that was leaked, that he had said all these horrible things. It took the guy 2 years to fight it. If he had taken it to the proper technologist, they could have shown, here's the source, here's where it came from, here's where it's obviously been digitally altered, and turn it back over and say, this was gone.
But he did not know how to go about that, and his lawyer did not know how to go about that? Is that the problem?
Well, yeah, so a
And
lot of
then-
people don't know, like, we're in a new era of advancement of technology, and folks are stuck in different areas. So if you're a certain demographic, you're reading the paper still, you're watching television. Another demographics, you're just online and you're chatting with people and doing different things. Another one, you're addicted to your phone, and your life is digital. Like, you take this stuff away from the kids, and you are impacting their ability to play with their friends. It's kind of crazy.
You know, and I find it interesting, I've read this in several places. People of high influence that have money and whatnot, they send their children to schools without technology.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking from an education piece of it, which I struggle from both sides, being a free-range kid and growing up without it, and then that's my bread and butter and understanding it. I know there's a point in technology where you need to unplug, you need to go out and touch the grass, you need to get outside and play, you need to be able to look people in the eye and communicate with them clearly. You're not gonna learn that by a screen. So it's tough because you don't want to also ignore the new tools and the new advancements and the stuff that they can use. So it's just it's going to be really wild. I think it's going to be positive looking at the kids. So my daughter's in college now, and I asked her, and I kind of looked at the kids what they do, and she says we're putting the phones away. So they learned already it was a risky business to be like walking across the street on your phone, right? That's you're playing a dangerous game there. But now they're going back to non-smartphones and not having their phones on and going out. And
College kids are? Your daughter,
I've got
you said?
4. My oldest is 21.
Okay,
So-
cool. Well, that's a good positive.
Yeah,
No.
the kids are gonna be all right.
as someone in that age group, I'm not sure there's that many of my friends that have gone away from phones. There have been a few. I have a friend of mine that he had a smartphone now and went back to a little flip phone or whatever, but I'm not necessarily sure that's a super big movement. I think most of us are addicted to our devices. I did kind of want to move the debate a bit back to the AI issue, and I wanted to talk about jobs in particular. We're not exactly sure what jobs AI will replace because AI is still in its infancy. It's only a few years old, at least the AI that we're using now, right? The ChatGPTs, all these image creators, they've sort of jumped onto the market very recently. And we don't know how quickly this technology will expand. I mean, look how much smartphones have changed since the original iPhone, right? I mean, it's night and day. So it's possible that a lot of jobs, including white-collar jobs, there's a lot of, those email jobs they call them, right? That people do, TikToks of, young women in swimsuits at the pool on their little computer making $80,000. I don't know how realistic those are, but those have been circulated around, right? A lot of jobs that are heavily integrated with computers. And the question is, if a job can be done on a computer, could it be done by a computer? Also, many lower level engineering jobs, call center jobs have been outsourced to places like India that have a huge supply of labor, but not as much money. So they can pay an engineer over there maybe $5,000 or $10,000 instead of 6 figures here in America. Could many of those jobs be taken over by AI? Might many people around the world, of the 7 billion people, not have work because of how much AI can do? That could lead to utopia. We don't have to work anymore. Or it could lead to dystopia, where only a few people have all the resources. There's a lot of legitimate questions here. Presidential candidate Andrew Yang suggested a universal basic income. Everyone gets $1,000 a month in order to combat things like automation that are costing jobs. There's a lot of questions to be asked here. So I asked the question of how do we feel about AI costing jobs? And do we feel like it's going to cause mass job loss, or are we going to adapt to it? Should the government step in? How do we feel about that?
Well, electricity costs us jobs.
That's true. As did the automobile, from the horse and buggy. The horses, they lost their jobs.
Well, I've seen it firsthand. I go to my sister's house in Austin, and they seem to be at the forefront of a lot of pilot programs. I have witnessed a little robot computer going down the street delivering food to people. They were opening their first hamburger restaurant where the entire thing was run by computers. There was going to be one person in there not doing anything but monitoring the computers that were doing everything. They were making the food, checking out everything was being prepared by a computer. So
And robots.
robots. And then we went out to a restaurant and our beverages were brought to us by a little computer.
And I love you brought that up because our next topic is going to be immigration, and a lot of that has to do with labor, so that'll be
So,
interesting
I
to
think
talk
we are
about
gonna-
that.
Yeah, I think we are gonna lose jobs. Can we change? I really feel like the artistic element and originality, art in particular, but can a computer program evolve to the sense that it can create original? I don't think it can right now, can it? I think it can only duplicate what's already been done in the past. So maybe if you're a creative mind, you'll be okay, but if you're a data guy, you might not be. I don't know.
Yes.
So the thing is, technology in itself has pulled us away from us doing tangible things and thinking on our own. When you're speaking about, teaching, you're saying the kids go on the computer to get the information. We're in a library, okay? I mean, does anybody remember the Dewey Decimal System and how it works? And just knowing that, you have to use your brain. And I really think that technology is taking us away from putting our feet on the earth and knowing where we come from and being amazed just by that, because it is an amazing thing. And AI is, the way I look at it, it's like a Ouija board. It's like talking to the devil. I'm sorry, that's what it's like to me. It doesn't, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And I don't wanna get near it, cause it doesn't make sense to me, it takes away my mind. And I want my mind to be active and thinking and responding and learning things and talking to people and being more, you know, with people.
Engaged,
And,
yeah.
huh? Yeah, and
Engaged.
just just the fact that people rely upon their computer to, it's like, oh, who was the singer of that band? And you go, oh, I don't know, let me look it up. It's like, no, think, just sit there and think for a minute. Let it come to you. It's okay if it doesn't come right away.
I used to know like 30 phone numbers by heart now.
I know,
Yeah.
me too, I used to remember numbers like that.
That's the thing,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
taken away our ability to think and our connection
Yeah.
to the Almighty, because He's the biggest brain in the world. I just shouldn't rely upon this, I should rely upon that connection I have. And that's why I'm just, yeah, I don't like it. I try not to look up things on my computer, I'm almost getting, and these are revelations I'm coming to just recently because of AI, where I go, wow, what is that? What's going on here? When did it start? And it's like, oh, this started a long time ago. Long time
Can I
ago.
pose a question?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, sir, Angel.
Go ahead.
So, I really resonate with a lot of what you say. I mean, we work, we make fire at home, we get our hands in the soil. My son doesn't get but a tiny bit of screen, and it's mostly we're outdoors. When I look at AI and I look at the way society is going, I wonder if AI, even with Neuralink, with what Elon Musk is working on, if AI is gradually moving towards, fusing with our own mind, and then in this way, that part of society will no longer feel it necessary to have the ability to read a map, because it will be dictated by an internal GPS. It will
That's
no
right.
longer have the need to be able to do things that we find critical for us to have critical thinking. It will just have a connection to a huge database, and also be able to do things that we would consider to be like telepathy, because it will make phone calls. So my question is that do any of you guys, have you guys thought of it that way? And then is this a split of humanity as we know it?
Yeah, well, I would just to think about that. The question is, already we're kind of outsourcing our brains to these devices. If we do that, what would be left of our brains? If everything else is doing that, with anything in your body, if it's not used, it will atrophy.
Right.
People that, as they get older, if they're not keeping their mind sharp, if they're not doing things, that's bad for the mind. And if we don't do anything, if we don't think anymore, if we don't use our memory anymore, we don't process anymore, we'll be like those people in that movie WALL-E. It's an old kid's movie, I don't know if you remember it, but everyone's all fat and doesn't do anything, and they're taken care of by computers, and some of those computers have nefarious motives. But the last question I wanted to get to, though, we're talking about this conceptually, but I want to think about this from a political perspective. What should the government do about it, if anything? That's what I wanted to focus on. And I do like that question about what about implants? Because on one hand, though, those Neuralink implants could restore sight for somebody who has blindness. They could help someone who has Parkinson's disease or dementia or or who is deaf or has some really bad disabilities. It could legitimately bring back their life, but at the same time, that it could also cause massive, massive consequences. Imagine if everyone just has their head drooped down, plugged into their little dopamine thing, and they're not even engaging with the world anymore. There's a lot of questions. So what should the government do about it? Yes, back there.
There's plenty of videos out there.
I won't.
There's plenty of video out there of they're making up fictional stories now, and you can start. And it's beautiful artwork, but it looks real, it looks human, but it doesn't. And they have a little 3-minute story about this guy, his life, and then it seems very real, and then you look down and it says AI generated. So that's what we have to, the government needs to have on all these things. Unfortunately, those political ones, it's the Wild West, and so you don't know what you're watching. But it needs to be regulated, but we have free will, like everything else. You didn't have to participate in the medical system if you didn't want to. So we need to stop making everything the boogeyman and connect and do what feels right inside. And if that, if you want to be lazy and go that other way, then go ahead, but it's a personal choice, just like everything
So,
else.
should that be a personal choice? Should someone be able to have a phone or AI integrated into their brain? Or, like certain things, we ban certain drugs, right, because of a negative impact. Is plugging a computer chip that has infinite stimulation to the brain, is that any different from being a heroin addict?
My opinion is it totally needs to be monitored, and not just by the government. There's gotta be other bells, and whistles to warn us if things are getting out of control, just because, who do we trust now? We don't trust the government to be able to take care of that. Look what they're doing now. So, and then, like you said, we can think for ourselves and make up our own mind. Well, we've done, because people will constantly go, well, these senators and stuff, they shouldn't be able to be in office for so long. Well, we put them in office and we keep putting them in. So we do have a choice, unless there's cheating going on with the voting, which there has been. But, so where do you go? Where do you go? We definitely, there has to be some kind of limits, right?
So there's
to
a
this?
degree, you already have people that are in jail for putting out ads, right? They've all been arrested and they're serving terms now.
That are putting out what?
Ads, can you specify what you mean
So
by
there was a
that?
guy that sent out a meme saying, talking about the 2016 election, remember to vote on November 6th and vote Hillary on November 6th. All right, so the guy's in prison now for, I don't know.
It
how
was
long.
he just forwarded it, he got it.
Yeah, he
And
didn't
it was
create it, he just
Hillary
passed it
Clinton.
on.
It was a little joke about Hillary Clinton
Yeah.
and said, oh, we made it easy, just text blah, blah, blah to
Yeah.
vote for me.
Oh, that's.
Yeah,
right.
text in person.
And they put him in jail for
Yeah,
10 years.
so it's a,
And is that a violation of his free speech?
so anytime you outsource your responsibilities and think, oh, okay, this nebulous entity is going to take care of it, you can say government, you've got to be careful what you're wishing for. I think 230 needs to be restructured and it needs to break open the monopoly of big tech. But as far as that, other than that, I would leave it alone, because I don't trust that somebody else in some other position is gonna make a better decision than individual consumers participating openly.
We have time for one more answer on this issue, so if you'd like that.
Oh, yeah, and the one thing about the whole Neuralink and all this and all that, the thing is, we talked about censorship before this. Can you imagine the narrative and you not being able to think for yourself and something telling you how to think? That is that step.
It kind
Into
of,
that
it kind of
direction.
already happening with.
Yeah.
That's true, that's what they think.
Yeah.
when you're, real quick, can I close real quick?
You may, yes.
We're talking about, a few times it was mentioned, the Neuralink, where something can be plugged in so you can see again. It can heal some kind of chronic disease and stuff like that. That technology already exists.
Yeah.
It's been done thousands of years ago by laying on hands on by the church and, through the blood of Jesus Christ. And that is something that we are getting away from, of not trusting, our true foundation in the resurrection life of Jesus Christ into it.
Right.
Technology. Because when you look at AI, I said this earlier, artificial, just break that word down. It's fake, it's not real.
Yeah.
Okay, well on that, thank you to our panel. The next will
Good
be
job, Michael.
on a quite polarizing issue, which is that of immigration.
Oh,
So right now, immigration levels have risen quite significantly under the Biden-Harris administration compared to what they were under the Trump-Pence administration 4 years before that. And there's a lot of questions about that. Why is it that those levels have increased? What are the causes of that? Both legal and illegal immigration have gone up. So it's not only illegal immigration, it's all different types have increased under this current administration. And there's a lot of questions about that. Questions of border security. Is the government doing enough to secure the border, or does more need to be done? What about people who come in illegally? Should they be given amnesty? Should they be given a pathway to citizenship? Should they be deported? What should be the answer to that? People have different perspectives on what should occur with people who come in illegally. But there's also the issue of legal immigration as well. It's long been repeated as a refrain that legal immigration is good and illegal immigration is bad. But there's also the question of how many resources do we have as a country? Right now, America lets in about 1 million people legally each year. That's green cards, that's citizenship. Then we let in temporary workers and students, and then we have illegal immigration. So you're gonna have 3 pots of different immigration. And the question is, how much housing do we have? In my generation, many of us can't afford to buy a home, right? So do we have room for as many people? But at the same time, do we need certain people with skills to do jobs? There's a lot of different perspectives that need to be asked on the issue of immigration. Are we letting in too many people or too few? And what should that policy be? Who should we be letting in? Right now, Donald Trump made an issue about immigration into Springfield, Ohio, and he called that illegal immigration, but it's kind of hard to evaluate it because Biden did give them permission to come in legally through a program called TPS, but Trump argues that that was not legal in the first place. So there's a lot of questions about that. But I think that we often find that the line between illegal and legal immigration can be quite blurry, and there can be some debates about that. Also, there's the question of automation and AI, as we brought up before. If we have machines to do jobs, do we need to bring in as many people? Should immigration be about jobs? Should it be about humanitarian causes? In the case of Canada, they have a higher level of immigration, and a lot of that is because they want a more multicultural society. Many people like the Canadian approach, but some countries like Hungary and Japan have adopted a more restrictive approach on immigration. There's lots of different factors to look at this issue, but I think that we have to look at this with the nuance it deserves, looking at the policies and really how many people does America have room for. So I now will allow you to talk about this issue amongst yourselves for a few minutes, and then we will get started on this very polarizing topic.